You're looking at the big picture with Edwin Eisendrath on WCPT 820.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. A little after 3 o'clock here in the upper Midwest, and I am thrilled to be joined by Devin Remiker, who leads the Wisconsin Democrats. As everyone listening to this show knows, that's an organization we have all supported here on this show. Many of us went and joined with Dems going door to door in past campaigns. We've made calls. People have even sent money. Wisconsin, I mean, these are bleak times, right? But Wisconsin and the Democrats in Wisconsin, the good people in Wisconsin, showed America that it's possible to break a terrible gerrymander and to limit the damage that seems to be the goal of radical right-wing state legislators. Devin picks up where Ben Wickler left off in the midst of doing good trouble. Devin, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Edwin. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you so much to everyone that's helped support us through the years. It's really helped make a tremendous difference.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you're not done. There's more, right? You got more to do up there. Yeah, I mean, the fair maps that you won after a brutal decade of fighting broke the GOP hold in the state house. Now you might actually be able to do that in the Senate too, right?
Absolutely. In both the Senate and the Assembly, we have the opportunity to win majorities next year. This wasn't even remotely possible. I mean, despite the fact that, Wisconsin is the quintessential 50-50 purple state, we basically had Republican supermajorities or close to supermajorities in both chambers before these maps were changed and made fair. Last year, in 2024, Democrats picked up 14 seats, and now we are only 2 seats in the state Senate away and 5 in the state Assembly from being able to have majorities. And if we can retain the Democratic governorship as well, we are looking at the potential for a trifecta in the state of Wisconsin, which was just unimaginable.
Unimaginable. Scott Walker is, I think, still alive and walking around, but he's metaphorically rolling over in his grave.
Yes, he is still rolling. He is currently working with, I believe, a National Republican Youth Group, which is just fascinating to me. Yes, we are thrilled to have been able to turn the corner on the Walker era and be on the cusp of something I think is just really exciting, which is the possibility for Democrats to have an entirely new generation of leadership and be able to deliver for working people. And I am just so excited to play my part in helping to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure Wisconsin is a 50-50 state. I mean, I know what happened in the last election everywhere, but you look at what the majority that you created for the Supreme Court race in your state and the governor's race, which, you won twice now. I think a lot of people are just upset with the quality of life that Republican leadership delivered in your state.
I think that's absolutely right. And I mean, it's not just Democrats. I mean, I think a lot about the Supreme Court race that we had earlier this year. Susan Crawford had a tremendous victory, almost 10 percentage points, as did Janet Protasiewicz in 2023. But that was after Elon Musk spent almost $60 million. I mean, whether it was television, digital advertising, literally bribing voters, by the time that was all done and dusted, they threw everything they had. And, the sort of harkening back to how you started this off, the thing that was sort of most heartening to me was just how resoundingly Wisconsinites rejected that. Yeah. And it wasn't just Democrats. You don't get to, almost 10-point margins of victory in this state. Yep. Without reaching conservatives and independents. And we did that by fighting back, by calling a spade, and Elon Musk, a billionaire oligarch who was trying to buy an election, and pointing out just that Susan Crawford just wanted to have fairness on the court. She just wanted to make sure that someone wasn't going to be bought and paid for by someone like Elon Musk. And that resonated across party lines. And I think that we can't be afraid to call things what they are and fight tooth and nail in this moment because everything's on the line.
Yeah, and you have another Supreme Court race coming too.
Yes, we do. In April of next year, we have another Supreme Court race. And, this one is actually for a seat that is currently held by a conservative. Rebecca Bradley is the incumbent justice who holds that seat, but she decided not to run for re-election, partially because she has seen just how effective we are at organizing and fighting in these spring elections to help power victories. But there is another conservative that has stepped up, Maria Lazar, who is basically a fringe conservative justice. In the past, she's been endorsed by folks like Michael Gableman, who helped run the sham investigation of the 2020 election. He's now been basically disbarred in this state for his
We've talked about him on this show, but it's been a while. He is a real clown, and he was on the Supreme Court.
Yes. Yeah. So she's cut from the same cloth, and
But you have a strong candidate running for that seat.
Chris Taylor is the Democratic Party's endorsed.
Yes, she's fabulous.
Yes, she's fantastic, and she's a judge on the Court of Appeals right now. She's running an incredibly strong campaign, and I just want to underscore, although this isn't going to change the majority, right? This can help us expand a majority that believes in fairness on the court. There is a Supreme Court election every year, 26, 27, 28. If Republicans ran the table on those, they would be able to win control of the court back in time to rule on the 2028 presidential election. Yeah. And in 2020, we were only one vote shy on our court of having our results overturned. We were one of the closest, if not the closest state in the entire country to not having our proper electoral votes counted. So I don't think conservatives, especially with what we're seeing from Trump and the anti-democratic administration and his allies right now, I don't think they're going to give us a pass just because we kicked Elon Musk's butt, even though we spent $60 million.
And Devin, I mean, what we have to say over and over and over again, particularly when it comes to judicial races or judicial appointments, is that this isn't about getting a conservative or a liberal judge on the law. This is about getting, because if it was up to you, you would not pick left-leaning Michael Gableman to put on that court. You wouldn't at the Supreme Court pick a left-leaning Clarence Thomas to put on that court. This is about whether you have jurisprudence, you have the rule of law as we understand it, as opposed to having a court that just does politics.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's why I say I believe in a fair majority on the court, not a Democratic or Republican majority. And, I look at how the justices, Rebecca Bradley was one of them, contorted themselves in 2020 to go along with some of the worst, most flimsy arguments that were ultimately about throwing out over 200,000 voters' votes lawfully cast in the state of Wisconsin over just basically made up technicalities and misinformation. That is exactly the type of individuals who are supporting Maria Lazar and leave me so concerned about her being on the bench. But I'm thrilled that I know Chris Taylor can be a fair, reasonable, and independent justice on the bench. And I really look forward to supporting her and making sure Maria Lazar is not elected.
Full disclosure, next week I'm coming up to your state to a fundraiser for her.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. All right. But we've talked about a Supreme Court race, but there are a lot of important races in the state, small ones and bigger ones to watch. Talk about some that you're really paying attention to.
Absolutely. Well, the really big one for us is the governorship. So our incumbent governor, Democrat Tony Evers, decided not to seek re-election. He, by the time he'll be done, have been governor for 8 years in this state, and he has done an amazing job. He is,
by the way, one of the best defensive players I've ever seen, because that's really the job he was dealt.
He is the Micah Parsons of governors. He is unrelenting. And he, my predecessor, Ben, would often say that his veto pen was perhaps one of the most important collections of atoms in the defense of democracy in these very turbulent years. And it is absolutely the truth. Yep. I am both excited to retain a governor that's able to be an equally skilled defensive player, but also someone who can be a partner to hopefully a Democratic legislature, which I know we also touched on. But I think the trifecta has to be our starting point here. We have to aim for what we want to do, and center the fact that, winning all this, politics, elections, we talk about winning and, how to produce that sort of outcome. The real outcome, the real goal of this work, the reason that I'm in it, and I know everyone ultimately is spending their money, time, energy, effort, is to be able to affect change in people's lives. And the way to ensure that we get that done is to be able to win the governorship, the assembly, and the Senate. We can just see Republicans will obstruct at any chance they get. And I think that is sort of my starting point. So, we have a primary for the governorship.
Yep.
There's a field of really great candidates that are emerging. And, the only sort of hang up is that our primary is August 11th. So we have one of the latest primaries in the entire country. We have 84 days between the primary and the general election. So it is a sprint. And I am really excited that we have a governor readiness project, a joint project between the state party and Governor Evers to ensure that our nominee has all the resources and the team that they need to be successful when we reach that point. But at the same time, when we look at sort of the other side, Tom Tiffany is essentially the de facto nominee for the Republican Party in this state. He is a U.S. congressman right now. He represents northern Wisconsin. Very conservative, and he was the most MAGA candidate sort of amongst the primary candidates. The more moderate Republican Bill Berrien dropped out after he had a social media scandal, to put it politely, and he quickly has consolidated support. This is an individual that has co-sponsored a 6-week abortion ban, has gone along with the tariffs that Trump has laid down that have decimated soybean farmers in the state, along with working families driving up the cost of goods, and will just be a rubber stamp for Trump. So we are really focused on holding him accountable every step of the way, while our candidates are able to have a discussion about their vision and their ideas for the party in the future. And I think that's a good thing right now. Personally, I think that everyone is looking to figure out what is next for the Democratic Party. And to me, this primary is coming at a time where I think it's going to be a really healthy process to let voters weigh in on what are the ideas.
I couldn't agree with you more, Devin.
They're looking for.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, for reasons that you and I know, having to do with the timing, we didn't have a presidential primary last cycle, and it hurt us a lot, because the attention then was on the other side. Donald Trump got all the airwaves, and I think as you go through this primary, people are going to be interested in the candidates and what they have to say, and the attention will be there. And attention it's like money in politics. It's very important.
It's the most precious resource of all at this point. A lot of the times you're spending money to try to get people's attention, which makes it the sort of base currency of what we're shooting for here.
Yeah, so I think that the primary is going to be helpful. I mean, I want to go back to what you said when you introduced these races, that what we're doing it for is to improve the lives of the people who are in this country, in your state, in my city. You unfortunately for Wisconsin, you're part of this terrible real life experiment because your neighboring state to the west, Minnesota, and Wisconsin are very similar on all kinds of measures. Very similar. They're similar kinds of economies, all of it. And at the beginning of the Scott Walker era, fairly similar in sort of the public outcomes. And then they went in different ways, and they did better at attracting private capital and investment. They did better in measures of public health and life expectancy. They did better in educational attainment. And the only difference was that your state ended up with a Republican supermajority, and theirs didn't. So you have a live experiment, which I look forward to Wisconsin being up when you get your trifecta back.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well. And I think this, if you look at what happened in Wisconsin, also in comparison to what's happening nationally right now, in the second Trump administration. I see so many parallels. The way that Scott Walker essentially exercised power in a way that we had never seen before to sort of suppress the opposition party, to do away with dissent. In light of extraordinary sort of citizen grassroots pushback against things like Act 10, he really just pushed forward and exercised raw power. And then they proceeded to redraw our maps, permanently stack the deck against us, or what they thought was permanently, until we were able to finally have fair maps again in this state, and just continue to, sort of shut us down and shut us out. I see a lot of the similar themes happening now. And there's a lot of individuals I talk to that obviously are really scared in this moment, that feel like there may not be a way out of this mess. But I can tell you there is. You've been through a smaller version of this in Wisconsin, but you have to you have to fight tooth and nail every single election, bit by bit, block by block, and build your way out. But there is a way out.
I'm so glad to have you on the show today, because one of my earlier guests was just despondent and did not see a way out.
And I understand it. There was a period, especially after 2016, I think, where we were in shock in the state of Wisconsin, and as many people were across the country. But it really felt as if we could go more direction of a red state than a blue state, or a purple state. We were hanging onto the edge of the cliff by the tips of our fingers, and we just had to climb. And it really started with focusing on the Supreme Court. It seems far-fetched, but if we can just win, three more races, we'll be able to get there and get back to majority. We did do it, and the path is going to be different. It's going to be done at the states, and I think that's really what we have to focus on. There's a big hunger for a national leader in the party right now, and
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, well, I'm not.
Primary will take care of that, and that's a couple of years away. We have to do the work in the states. We have to do the work. I mean, what you said before was that you did it, election by election. But really, that's not fair to you, because what you did was build something that worked every day, not just in election cycles. But you were organizing people. You were telling people who cared about their state, hey, there's an on-ramp you can take to become involved in helping your state be a better place. And people liked that, and they took that opportunity. And then they met other people doing it, and it became a big organizing success. And at the national level, we're beginning to see this muscle that the left hasn't used in 60 years, big organizing, big civic efforts of massive organizing. But you did that in Wisconsin, and you turned it to politics, but it helped build community while you were doing it.
Absolutely. And that's one of the key things right now, especially in rural Wisconsin. The absence of community leaves people feeling so alone and so isolated. If they don't think that their neighbors, if they think that they're all on the other side, they may not be willing to come out. They might not be willing to take action. They can feel afraid. So finding ways to build community and organize people to sort of build that machine and that framework is so important. And our year-round organizing has just been critical to what we've done, to what we have done. And that starts not even just with Ben, but with his predecessor, Chair Martha Lanning. She actually laid down this framework in the state. And now we have over 270 neighborhood teams. Each of them essentially replicate the work of what you would normally pay a full-time, field organizer staffer to do. It has enabled us to really have a very efficient citizen-led grassroots machine. And, next weekend we have 1 year to win. So I know there's critical elections in Virginia and New Jersey. But in Wisconsin, we're still going to be out there talking to folks. And as a bonus, we'll be phone banking into those states as well to help do our part to move this country forward as well. But we will have 425 Canvas launches in over 114 municipalities around the state, which is just tremendous. I mean, our reach and our scale is so large. We are oftentimes in a campaign cycle. There's a lot of fantastic folks that step up and help reach out to people outside of the Democratic Party, but it's usually isolated to a handful of cities. We are almost everywhere in the state, talking to folks and communicating about the issues year round. And I mean, that's how we have to do it. You have to make the commitment.
Well, and I mean, Illinois is a Democratic state, but we don't have a Democratic Party in anything like the sense that you do. Ours is old school. It's the legislative leadership and the lobbyists got together and they fund a Democratic Party. Most of the great candidates I've known in my life have run against the party in primaries. Proud Democrats, but nonetheless not thrilled with the way the party works. In your state, you've built it from the bottom up. So it's a very different kind of feel, and it's much stronger, more resilient in some ways. And it's become a model around the country. I mean, I talked to, North Carolina. I was talking to Rita Hart in Iowa the other day. These guys are all looking to your model to replicate to save the country, particularly states with big rural populations.
And those are fantastic state parties that I think, have really internalized, sort of that core lesson of building from the bottom up. And, I've also talked with your own state party relatively recently. About helping to sort of adopt that and build it as well. Obviously, having the powerhouse, Chicago is a little bit different than, a little old Iowa or Wisconsin. But ultimately, I do think it's a model that can work everywhere. Sometimes you have to adjust it a little bit. But I think that there is, sort of really growing recognition that this isn't just, some fluke for Wisconsin that worked out really well and isn't something you can replicate. But really, it does require the state parties to have resources, to have support, to have buy-in. And that could be one of the hardest hurdles to clear for folks is sort of being able to have a fresh start. And I think that is, something that each state has to figure out how they can resource the team to sort of boot up this operation. But once they do, once they're able to get to the point like we are, where there are those, really core group of neighborhood teams, it is so effective and much more efficient than just popping up, shop every other year for the campaign season and then having to fold up and then relearn all the same lessons and rebuild all the same relationships 2 years later. Yeah,
you can't just show up right before an election and say to people, vote for me. You need to be listening to people and being part of a community all year long. And when you do it, that's powerful.
Exactly.
It also fights the cynicism that's undermined so much of our politics.
Exactly. And it leaves an open door for people, at moments like this. I was at a No Kings protest in Reedsburg, Wisconsin, which is right next to where I live, over this past weekend. And I mean, there were hundreds of people. Most of them hadn't even, participated in something really political before. This was their first thing. And, it is really amazing to see that organizing work occurring. I sort of view the party's role as complementary. I'm not there to subsume or overtake or feel pride of ownership over every single thing that happens in the state of Wisconsin. It's great that they're bringing people out, but at the same time, I want to make sure that folks know that we're on the same team. We're trying to make the same change, and that there are other ways that they can get involved. There's more things that they can do. But if you don't sort of have those open doors all across the state at moments like this, you're missing people that may not realize, oh, hey, there's a county party I can join. They have monthly meetings and a happy hour every month. Mm-hmm. Those are future county party leaders, neighborhood team leaders, potentially elected officials of tomorrow that are coming online right now. And I want to make sure that they know about us for the long term.
Yeah, they should. So I hear people say, and it's in the press a lot, people are angry at Democrats. The more they get mad at Donald Trump, they get mad at Democrats for not stopping him. And they say, well, Democrats don't stand for anything. They don't, what do they really stand for? Do you think that we need to have a party platform before we have a candidate, that we need to get out there and just say, look, this is who we are? I mean, I look at the candidates that you you talked about today, the candidates who I see running in state after state, and the shared values are completely clear. There's not 100% agreement on policy, and you wouldn't want it in a big tent party, but there's an enormous sense of who we are, that and I know we feel it, but somehow everybody else doesn't see it that way. What can we do about that?
Well, Edwin, as the chair of a state party, and I
probably not a fair question.
No. I'm happy to answer it. I'm dealing with this in a microcosm with our gubernatorial primary, right?
Yep.
And when you say platform, I think a lot of people are going to think about, okay, this is the policy we support. This is the plan that we're sort of going to stamp and say is officially supported. And I think that is just a little bit of a bridge too far for the party, to be honest.
Yep.
What I focus on is exactly what you said, the values, what is most important to the party and how do we define ourselves? And, to me, that is crystal clear right now. We need to make clear that we are the party that is going to fight for the working class in this country. We are the party that is going to defend your fundamental rights and freedoms. And we're the party that's going to protect our very democracy.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the things that energize people, that there's the most rich discussion on, that people have sort of the most policies that they want to put forward and center their campaigns around, they usually fall under one of these three banners.
Yeah, makes sense.
Those are the values that I'm sort of promoting right now. But I don't want to get in the middle of a primary process where it feels like I am setting floors or ceilings about, how ambitious or unambitious folks have to be about their vision and their policies as candidates for office.
Enormously wise.
That's sort of how I see it personally.
Yeah, I think that's wise.
Yeah.
I've described the difference now as between us and the other side as organized people versus organized money.
Mm-hmm. The many versus the money.
Yeah. And it's a real fight right now. Oh, my gosh, a real fight. Well, all right, we have a minute left. Remind everybody, although I think the listeners to this show know, how they can become part of helping you and WisDems do your great work.
Well, if you go to wisdems.org, you're able to find tons of ways to get involved with the party, whether that is volunteering, donating. We really appreciate folks who sign up to be recurring monthly contributors, 10, 25, 50, whatever you can afford. Long range certainty for politics when it comes to being able to plan a budget is so impactful. But we really appreciate it. If you happen to be listening or know somebody in Wisconsin, they can also join to be a member of your county party. It's a pay what you can model and help support us from the bottom up as well. Really appreciate anything you can do. We are also right now recruiting for the 1 year to win, but also for the spring election so people can get signed up for the long term. Anything you can do to support us here in Wisconsin, we'd really appreciate. What happens in Wisconsin can shape the country. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Devin. I really, really appreciate your time. Great conversation.
Likewise. Thank you.
Bye.